it's healing for heartbreak, loss, and abandonment. Anyone who's ever felt that fear of rejection or disconnection knows that there's something underlying a lot of their most vulnerable feelings, and it's healing for that fundamental human part that we all share. With abandonment, you have shattering, where the connection is, you realize that it's threatened or broken, and withdrawal, where you're yearning for that object, which makes it similar to grief, when you're yearning for the person that you're missing. But then in internalizing, this is when you attack yourself. You beat yourself up for not being lovable enough, for not being attachment worthy, for not being enough, or at least that's how it feels to you at the time. And that damages your self-esteem. It creates an infection in that abandonment wound, and it can leave permanent scarring. And then in the last two stages, you're enraged, you're angry. The rage stage is very similar to the stage in grief. And the lifting stage, when you kind of get back into life, is similar. But as you emerge through the abandonment process, you take some pretty hefty baggage with you about your self-esteem and your fear of future abandonments in future relationships. That describes how you go through these stages, because they're nearly simultaneous. They're not one stage and then you wait for the next stage. You overlap into these stages. You swirl through them so that you're really going through a process that has you almost in an emotional storm. Abandonment is the feeling that we get as children, even infants, that we depend on another person's nurturance and love in order to survive. We hold on to that feeling even when we're adults, and we can very well stand on our own 2 feet. But when we feel someone's love slipping away from us or someone's loyalty going away, we have this primal reaction to it. And very often it's a subtle thing. It's the addiction to abandonment. Really what it is that you've been hurt so many times that you've come to confuse insecurity for love. So you actually chase the unavailable. You're only attracted to the unavailable because only when your abandonment fears are aroused do you realize that you're attracted. And conversely, when somebody comes along who is available and who wants you, it doesn't push your abandonment buttons, and you don't think you're attracted. When we feel someone's pulling away from us, these involuntary emotional suction cups pop out of us and aim straight at the person and scare them away. And these are a source of tremendous shame for people, because when your emotional suction cups pop out, it means that you're acting very needy and desperate. And the other person can easily say to you, the reason that I'm pulling away is because you're being too needy. And then we feel so ashamed because we feel that we're the ones causing all the problems in the relationship. Children can swirl through their childhood going through abandonments constantly because children experience almost anything that creates doubt or insecurity or fear as abandonment, because they feel diminished by things that adults have a cognitive ability to be able to rationalize. And what happens is the child goes through that internalizing process where the child begins to doubt his own worth. That's when he starts to abandon himself. And when that self-abandonment starts, that is when the permanent kind of damage, semi-permanent, because abandonment recovery can help it to heal. But that's when some of the lifelong patterns set in. You develop patterns of behavior to compensate you for those feelings and to hide them from other people or to defend yourself in situations coming up that you're afraid of. And so you develop all of these knee-jerk reactions and these defense mechanisms. And when you get older, they become maladaptive to your life. They hold you back and they sabotage your relationships. And I call these patterns outer child patterns because they act out your feelings. Your feelings are inward, and your outer child acts them out in the form of unwanted behaviors. So when you recover from abandonment, you're not just healing the inner wound. You're also, as you heal the wound, you are reversing those patterns. You're beginning to gain back your strength as an adult to behave according to what's in your best interest and not just these knee-jerk reactions.